Okay, once you've completed your character to satisfaction, we can go ahead and break them apart into pieces for animation, and I'll show you how to do that fairly quick. I'll just say, obviously, you don't have to have a character that's anywhere near this detailed for a game. I use this much detail just because I enjoy doing it, and I can later use it for game-related artwork, such as a poster or cover or something like that. Okay, I'll turn off these fancy outlines and such. Okay, so I merged this into a single image and put the other unneeded layers into a hide folder, and let's make a duplicate of this layer so that we can start working on his pieces and we can keep the original copy without corrupting it. First thing to do is grab his head. If you have save selections that you can load, you can do that too. I'm just going around everything here so that I can capture this extra glow that goes past the lines. So I'm going to go Control-Shift-C to copy, Control-Shift-V to paste in place, and now I have the head here. Control-Z. And I'd like to be able to move the ears independently, and I'll make this a layer also that goes behind the ears. So let's do that. And keep in mind too, you can use this add to selection or subtract from selection. There's also full selection and difference. So we're just going to use add to selection. If we accidentally add something we don't want, then we can cut it out like that if we didn't want that, for example. So Control-Shift-C to copy, Control-Shift-V to paste in place, and now we have these two layers. And now let's grab the ears. Just keep in mind too that if you want, you can use the pen and Bezier tools to create path-based selections as well. So then you can get nice curved selections. You can also use the Select, Modify, Smooth. That'll smoothen out the selection, but you got to keep in mind you're going to lose these corners if you do that. Control-Shift, copy, Control-Shift, paste in place. Let's just make sure that's working. And so what I'm going to do here is, because I have the head as one thing right now, let's hide all the other layers, go to the layer for the head, and go to your selection tool, right click, reselect, select, and just hit delete. And we'll fill this in later. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing for the next ear. Okay, I'll select this ear. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use the pen tool to make the selection, because then I can just click right here and click down here. And I got hotkey set up to do anchor points, so I just hit A. And I also have P set up to activate pen tool. So then you can get really precise selections. And I'll set P to continue this path. Now out here it's not going to matter, obviously. Click on here to complete the path. So what we'll do is we'll make that into a selection. Oops, gotta go to the pen tools. Make this into a selection and Control-Shift. Actually, let's just cut this. Control-Shift-V to paste in place on a new layer. We should make sure to label our layers. So this is the far ear. We got a near ear. Near ear will go on top of the head layer, so I'll put it above it. And we want to be able to have the eyes look around and possibly have the character blink, so we'll set that up too. So I just did right click and load selection and picked eye whites, so I got the eye whites selected now. So let's cut that from the head. Control-Shift-V to paste in place. We'll call that eye whites. We'll load the selection for the colored part of the eyes. We also want to include the shine. Unless you want the shine attached to the head so that it doesn't actually move around. In fact, you know what? That actually would probably look better. Yeah, we'll make these glowing white parts as part of the head itself so that they're stationary. That way it doesn't look strange when the eyes look around because the light's still bouncing off of the eye surface at the same angle and it should still look the same. Technically it shouldn't move with this part of the eye when it moves around. I'm going to expand this selection a bit though. Okay, so I clicked to show the layer behind it so we don't got that transparent line there, so that when we grab this selection here, it's not going to have that weird white line in there. So I'm going to add to selection, but I'm going to use a pen tool here again. Once you've made your pen path curve around it, just right click and make selection, but change it to add to selection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract selection, and I'm going to make these two so that they can move independently if you want them to. So Control-Shift-C, so you're copying through all layers. Control-Shift-V, paste in place. We'll call this left eye, and we'll do the same thing to the right eye. Now let's hide those layers and hide the layer behind it. We got to cut these parts of the eyes out, so load selection, eye colors, and hit delete. And we just got to get rid of these lines in the inside here. We can just grab the eraser tool and quickly erase it. Now let's go down here, add another layer, go black, put it at the very bottom. We'll use paint bucket, fill. Okay, use smart selection, get rid of this layer. Now grab the whites of the eyes, the smart selector. Control-Shift-C, Control-Shift-V to paste in place. And we can use reselect after to remove that. And say blending options, outer glow. I'm just going to say normal. Okay, so it thinks there's something else on this layer. Just to make sure it doesn't mess up, select these and select inverse, hit delete, deselect, go to blending options again, and boost up the size to make sure that nothing else is glowing that shouldn't be. So that'll give us a pretty good shine on the eyes. And then that way, for example, when this eye moves around, oh yeah, it's got to be underneath. So now the head layer, let's call this head, should go above the eyes. And we can grab an eye. So the only problem with that theory is then we got to fill in extra detail inside the eye too. You might not even want to do that. It's a lot of extra work just for an effect. So I just opened up the original copy of the alien, and I'm just going to use the Smart Selection tool, and I turned off the highlights in the eyes. In fact, I'm going to copy that layer over too. So first I'll copy this. Oops, Control-Shift-C to copy from all layers. And we'll paste that into the other one that we were working on. Okay, so I hid the other layers, and we'll make this part into the left eye, and we'll just patch it up. And then this part into the right eye. Okay, and we don't need these parts for the eye whites layer because this goes on top. So we'll cut that. I just have to rename this eye shine and then put it up above the other layers. We can go to the original though, and we can add more to the shine that goes on top. To do that, we'll go to the original, select the eye shine layer, copy that, and paste it onto this one. We'll put this eye shine above it, and then we'll merge it down. So then we got these other little highlights here on the eye. Okay, I've isolated the tubes here. I'm just going to stretch these out so that they can go behind things when things move around. So what I'm doing here is I took a piece of this, reflected it. You can use the stamp brush, or you can just take a piece and reflect it vertically, distort it. And then you can use the smudge tool to kind of line this up better. And the erase tool to kind of blend the edge here, burn tool to kind of darken this a bit for the part that's behind it. And then I have the near ear layer on so I can see where it would line up behind it. I can turn the head on to see how far we're going to need to go in on this side too. As you can see, it's actually really quite easy just to stretch this stuff out with the smudge brush. You don't need to be perfect because a lot of this stuff's going to be hidden most of the time. And you can use the clone brush. I got it at 100% opacity right now. Could dial that down maybe and just kind of blend it in. Maybe we'll copy this one and go on this layer that's behind it. As you can see, that kind of works, but it doesn't work that great. In fact, let's go on the layer above it. So I'm going to hide this far ear and the near ear, and we'll just copy this whole thing here and paste. And I did copy all layers that are visible, and we'll move this to here. So just in case there's a lot of distortion or motion of the head or the ears, there's sort of this here for backup, some extra stuff that's kind of behind everything. Just going to erase this here because that part and this part probably aren't going to move around too much. And I'll move this one under this one and then merge these two together. That's this back part now. We can call it tubes. Yeah, merge these together too. So now we can move this under the ear and the head. Now we can start patching up the head. Okay, to patch up the head, I select the brush size, B, and pitch black color. So this is a solid brush, and I'm going to hit P, and I'm just going to join this to this. Use my hotkey for anchoring, and we can actually put this on another layer that's behind the head. So start one here called layer 8. Go back to anchor, adjust this until it looks good. And I'm going to do stroke path based on the brush. Okay, and then we can use either clone stamp or smudge or a variety of other techniques to get this sort of painting to fill in back here. Okay, and just using a typical selection technique. I'm just going to paint in here actually. Let's grab the color close to the edge and try to get generally close colors. And it won't have to be perfect at first. Okay, so now I'm going to make a copy of this just to be safe, and then I'm going to hide that copy, the head under, and merge these two. We'll call that head again, and then I'm going to go ahead and use the smudge tool. Okay, and since this is going to be hidden a lot, it doesn't have to be perfect, obviously, especially considering that we're zoomed in super close. So that patched up the head, then we can put, looks like we lost some of our ink there. Oh, we should have been painting to a layer under that. I can fix that in a second. It turns out I actually had that different layer, and then I painted into another layer. Go back to the head, paste on top of it, merge down. And anything we're not using, I'm just going to dump in this little hidden filler here for hiding. Okay, and we want the eye shine to be kind of static with the head, so we'll put it up above the head and merge the two. That should work. Now this ear, we want it so that when it bends and stuff, that there isn't any obvious distortion going on here. For this, probably isn't so essential because it already kind of fades into it, but I'll show you what I would recommend. So I'm just kind of blending this out using the smudge. We'll see how that works on the head. Seems to be working okay. I got another copy here just in case. So one of the problems is this might actually have to go behind this. So we might have to actually extract a piece for the eyelid here to make it go over top. Okay, so I've isolated the head as a layer. I'm going to copy this part of the head and paste it as a layer that will go behind those other parts. And then we'll reselect on this layer for the head and we'll cut that out. So we'll show that other part again. What we'll do is we'll blend this so that this can go behind the other one.